the Archway protocol reward and also exercise some practical use cases with CosmWasm. And I would like to let you know if you have questions, please just drop them in the Q&A box, and we will get to those at the end. Okay. All right. So first of all, a little bit about me. I'm Augusto Elesbão. I'm a lead developer relations at Phi Labs, which is a contributor to the Archway protocol. And the Archway protocol is a layer one smart contract platform similar to Solana, Avalanche, etc., with the main difference being that it is part of the Cosmos ecosystem, and the protocol was designed to send rewards for dApp developers. And what are those rewards? So the reward system in Archway works with basically those three main components. So we have gas rebates, which are, so for example, for every transaction in a contract, the users will get part of the gas refunded to them, so they will spend less gas in the transaction. Another component are the contract premiums. So this feature allows the dApp developer to request for a little bit extra in the transaction fees as a reward, as a premium on that. And those extra fees collected will be forwarded to the reward address that the app developer chose. And also, together with that, we also have inflation rewards. And the inflation rewards are so part of the inflation, the natural inflation of the network, controlled by the Cosmos model, Mint model, is redirected back to the dApp as well. So this is chosen based on the block utilization that contract had on that block. Okay, so and how those rewards can be used. So the dApp rewards, they can be used basically in the way that you want. So you can forward the rewards, for example, to governance contracts, and then these can be managed by a DAO, for example, or it can also be used to fund core development for the project team. It can be used to subsidize gas fees and so on. So basically here you're free to use your imagination and try out the system in many different ways. And yeah. So how do you enable the contract rewards in Archway? So the steps for that, you can simply follow the deployment steps the same way as you're used to do with a normal CosmWasm contract. So after your contract is ready for deployment, you store it on chain and you instantiate the contract. After that, the account that you used to instantiate the contract will be the only one that is able to set a metadata for that contract. And when you're setting the metadata, you will be able to choose between the two reward models available, the collect premium or gas rebates. So those are set by based on parameters. And after you enable the reward model you want, then your contract starts to collect the rewards. So for this third step, I have another explanation, another slide with a better explanation. So the gas fees, the way that it works, so 50% of the gas consumed by the WASM execution is refunded back to the reward address that you specified. So how does it work? In a block, you have like several steps until the WASM code gets executed. And during those steps, each of those will consume gas. But the only step that will accrue rewards is the step that actually executes the WASM contract. So for example, imagine that the block, the entire block consumed 300 U for gas, like this for the entire transaction, sorry. The entire transaction executed consumed all this amount of gas, but only the contract only consumed 60 U arc of gas. So from those 60, they will be forwarded back in rewards to the reward address. Okay, so I think like for the theoretical part, this is enough. I think it's as always, it's much better to see an example in code. So now it's demo time. Let me pause the share while I set up the IDE and the environment here so you can see. Please give me a few seconds to do that. Okay, so do you guys see my terminal window? Okay, cool. So here I set up this repository. So let me share it here with you. Sorry, it's a bit small, so let me increase the font size. Give me a second, please. GitHub, Archway Network. So if you want to follow, I just shared the, oops, sorry, let me share again. I just shared with you all the link to this repository, okay? I'm gonna increase the font size. Is it better? Okay, cool. So these here, let me open in a separate window. Okay, so here in this repository, you will find with all the instructions for you to follow and test the reward system. So it's very simple to go through the entire workshop. So let's start here step by step. So first of all, I have all those accounts already configured in my environments. So we will use this deployer account, which is the account with that will deploy the smart contracts. We have this, and those other accounts will be used later for the last. Okay, and before you start, you should request funds in our faucet for the deployer and the other accounts. Okay, those will execute transactions they will interact with the smart contract, so they need to be to have tokens from the test net. All right, so the first thing we will do is to work with the and here in the demo we will use those two contracts. So there's this increment contract that you can find in the Archway templates repository as well. It's a pretty basic contract. If you haven't seen it, it does. Oh, sorry, I think my Vim is a bit broken. Somehow it started doing those weird things today. So this is a very simple contract. It basically only increments a number in the states. And let me just zoom this a little bit out. I hope it is still okay to read. Okay, so this contract only increments a counter on the state. So it's we will use this as the contracts that we will execute the transactions on top of it, and the rewards from the transactions of this contract will be redirected to another user, or we will see the gas rebates and so on. So the first step here is to deploy these contracts. Okay. So to deploy the contract, I'm using the deployer account, as you can see here. I'm setting the full arguments here, and please don't. You will notice if you run the Archway CLI in the current version that we have in NPM right now, the messages you will see are different from those in my terminal, because this is a new the new version that we are working to release at some time next week. So right now, if you try with the current CLI version, you will see different results, but it will still work. Okay, so we just deployed the contracts, and yes, so we have the contract address, and at the end, we see a recommendation that we should set the contract metadata using Archway, the Archway metadata command. Okay, so the Archway metadata command is where we configure the rewards. I'm sorry, help. So just going to go through the options that we have available. The most important ones here: developer address. This is the address that will work as an admin for the metadata. So this is the address that will have access or authorization to modify the metadata every time. Okay, so by default, when you deploy smart contracts, the address that deployed the contract will be the one with authorization to set the metadata, but you can change this parameter after you set the metadata. And this, you should be careful here, because if you change this and you don't have access to the developer address anymore, then you won't be able to change the metadata again. So, okay, so we have here the gas rebates, which is a flag. So it only indicates if the contract should use the gas rebates, okay? And we have the collect premium. The collect premium will enable the other feature, which is to collect a premium on every transaction fee for that contract. So those two flags, they cancel each other. Okay, you can only enable one or another at a single time. So you can change over the course of the existence of your contract. You can switch anytime you want between gas rebates or collect premium, but you cannot have both enabled, because, well, it doesn't make sense to reduce the gas fees and also to collect a premium. Yeah. So when you set the collect premium, you can also set a premium percentage. Okay. By default, this is 0, but you can set up to 200% of premium on the fees. And when you set collect premium, you can also set a reward address. And this is the address where the rewards will be deposited. Okay. So let's do that. Let's set the metadata. And I have here somewhere. Let's start with gas rebates. Okay. So first, let's test the gas rebates. But before setting the gas rebates, to see how it works, we actually need to execute a transaction in the contract to see, to benchmark what's the standard gas consumed by a transaction. So let's run here. Oops. Okay, so this no confirm flag is only to skip the transaction confirmation question. So we will interact with the contracts. Okay, so transaction confirmed. So let's see how much gas this transaction consumed. To check, to query all this information, I'm not going to use the Archway CLI. I'm going to use the Archway D, which is the Archway daemon, and I will query for the transaction. Okay, so I'm using the Constantine network, the Constantine testnet, and I'm querying in this transaction. I want to see the fees consumed for this transaction. So, okay, we consumed 326 microconsts. So, okay, let's enable the metadata now. Let's set the metadata and enable the gas rebates. Sorry. Yeah, this is actually a bug in the CLI that's going to be fixed. We enable only gas rebates. We don't need actually to specify a developer rewards. But yeah, okay. So I'm setting this flag now. So okay, we just set. Let me zoom in here. I think it's better to read. So, okay, we just set the contract metadata, and this is those are the parameters we just specified. And now let's run a transaction again in the contract. Let's increment it. Okay, so we just run the transaction. Let's query how much gas it consumed. Okay, so you can see here, oh, I'm sorry. In this case, it consumed more because the gas prices, they fluctuate, all right? So not all executions will consume the same amount of gas. And this is expected. This is how every network operates. So here we see that it actually consumed more gas, but in practice, what happened is that it should have consumed more if it was not for the gas rebates. Okay. All right. So let me just go to the next example. I will now set collect premium. And with the collect premium, I'm going to collect for all the transactions. I'm going to send part of the transaction fees to the address that is specified here, the reward address, which is the address for Alice. Okay, so let me set the metadata. Okay, so before running a transaction, let's see how much, what's the balance in Alice's accounts, okay? All right, so Alice has at the moment 88 microconst. So now let's run a transaction. Okay, so let's query again. Okay, so here it is. Alice received the rewards for that transaction. Okay, so she received 20 microconst as rewards. Okay, that's cool. So we see that yeah, the rewards are working, and we are sending this to some random accounts. But let's get a little bit creative on that. So what if we send those rewards to another smart contract, and this other smart contract will release those rewards to another specific address based on an approval of a third party? Okay, so let's imagine that we have like an escrow contract, and then we can go here. We can have this escrow contract to receive the rewards And this is just a very basic scroll contract. You can find this an example of this contract in the repository. It is based on the one available in the CosmWasm templates repository as well. And as you can see here, it's very simple. Let me open the messages that it runs. So the contract on instantiation, it receives two accounts, one as the arbiter. So this is like the third party that will be able to release, to approve, or to refund the tokens that are held by this contract. And the recipients, in case of an approval, the recipient will get the tokens back. In case of a refund action, then the sender will receive the tokens back. And who is the sender? Sorry, the source will receive the tokens back, and the source is the sender of the instantiate message. Okay, and what does it mean? It means that the accounts that deployed and instantiated the smart contract will receive the tokens back in case of refunds. All right, so this is very simple. Let me show here how does it work, the logic for approval. So when we receive an approve message, okay, so it will call this try approve function. And the try approve function will first of all validate if the one sending the transaction is the arbiter. So only the arbiter can call this method. And then you can also specify an amount in the transaction, or as this is an option type, as you can see here, the quantity is an optional type. So if we receive none, then it will just query the balance available for this contract. So here we are querying in Cosmos, from Cosmos. We are getting the total amount available in this contract address, and we reply this transaction with a send tokens message. And here's the response for the send tokens. And as you can see here, the send tokens will call this message from CosmWasm, which is just like the bank model. It will send, it will send coins to another account using the bank model. And here you can also get more creative if you want. So if you explore the same place where we have the bank message defined, you will see that we have stake message. For example, you could also send those funds to validator to stake and so on. So, okay, this that's it for this contract. The most important parts are covered here. So let's deploy the contract. Okay, so to deploy this contract, it requires a little bit more. It requires a more it requires like basically this JSON. So let me show how does it look like. So here we have the arbiter and the recipients. I'm just using here JQ to build the JSON. And now we can deploy this contract using the deployer account as well. Okay. So we have the contract address. Okay, so let's fetch this the contract address in this environment variable. Here, what I'm doing, I'm just querying the config.json file because the config.json file stores the deployment information for us with the contract address as well. So here I'm fetching the escrow address. And now I go back to the increment contract. Okay. And now we set the metadata again, but this time, instead of using the Alice address, we will use the escrow address. Oops, sorry. Did something wrong. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. My query didn't took into consideration that I have two instantiate messages here, so the address is wrong. So let me scroll address equals this. Okay, so now it should work. Okay, so we set the reward address as the contract address. So let's first query this address. It's empty, okay, because we just deployed the smart contract. Let's transact again with the increments contract. Okay, so now if we query again, we see the rewards are available there. So let's transact again, just to send a little bit more tokens to the contract. Okay, it's here. Okay, so we received all our rewards in the contract. Now let's go back to the escrow contract. Now in the escrow contract, we can release the funds if we want. Okay, so we can approve. So first time, let me do this with deployer key. So the contract validates. It says unauthorized. All right, that's expected. And we can change this to the arbiter account. And now, yep. And now the contract. Sorry. Let's see. Yeah, now the contract balance is empty again. Okay. And we can also query the, oops, I'm sorry, I messed up. I closed by accident the window. Okay, escrow address, and probably I'm gonna query the recipient. But probably the recipient has a bit more tokens because I used this account before as an example. But yeah, as you can see, the tokens are there. And yeah, so I think that's basically it for this workshop. Oh, I'm sorry, I think, let me see something. Did you, sorry, did you guys get the last step? Because I saw that Zoom paused the share.
Yeah, the screen share is looking good, Augusto.
Okay, perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. That's because Zoom showing me another message here. So I think, yeah, that's it. I will jump over to the Q&A now. Yeah, so first, can I set another contract to be the owner of a contract in the metadata? Yeah, so this is a very good question. This is something that actually I'm still researching on that, to be honest, because the thing is for a contract to be the owner of the metadata, and what does it mean? For example, when we set the metadata, so this here, the developer address in this case to be the owner, like to be set to another contract, what we would need to do, this other contract would need to be able to send the Cosmos message for setting the metadata. In theory, this is possible, but still there is research to be done here. I'm not sure if this will work at the current state. But yeah, I will keep you guys posted on that and share that in a subsequent post in Discord or in a blog post. Yeah, so okay, done. And let's see the next question. I wonder what the U means. When terminal mentions the token U arc. Okay, yeah, U is just the U is just like a symbol for micro. So it just means like micro tokens. Instead of one unity, you can divide this unity by 1,000. Okay, so let's see. Next question. The premium feature is really neat. How do we create a front end that connects to the smart contracts? Which frameworks work well with CosmWasm? Okay, so for the front end, we have in our GitHub, let me share with you all. We have dApp examples repository. Okay, let me get it here. And by the way, we also prepared this list here, awesome Archway. It's just in the beginnings. So if you also find content around and you want to contribute, please feel free to do so. But at the end of this list, you will find a link to the example projects, and there's the Archway dApp examples. In this repository, you will find examples on how to write the front end for React and Vue.js contract. React and Vue.js front ends. Okay, so any more questions? Okay, yeah, so there's an important, a good question here. In order to understand the workshops in full, what are the preliminaries that people should know? Okay, so this one, it's, yeah, very good question. And I guess that the best content you should start with is understanding how Cosmos chains works, like the basics on how to query query funds in an account, just do one transaction and very simple, very basic things, just to understand like the basics of how Cosmos based chain works. Then you can also jump to our docs website, okay? So this is docs.archway.io, and there you will find resources on how to install the tools that you need to run smart contracts, CosmWasm smart contracts in your local environments. And you will also find a very good tutorial to start with smart contract development. And yeah, as you can see, those smart contracts are based in Rust. So yeah, a good Rust starter, like reading the Rust book that is available in the Rust documentation website, is a good start for getting Rust knowledge. Cool. Does anyone have more questions? multiple arrests rewards. Oh, okay. Wotori, yeah, so you asked about multiple arrest reward. What do you mean by arrests in this case? I don't really get it. Address. Okay, all right. So yeah, no worries. Yeah, it was a typo. Okay, so good question from Wotori. If we can set multiple addresses for the rewards. No, it's not possible to set multiple addresses, but what you could do is to have like a modified version of these escrow contracts, for example. And when you are approving the funds, so let me just show in the code. Share the screen. Okay, so let me zoom in. Rewards scroll. So here in the source code, what you could do is when you are specifying, for example, the recipients, this could be changed to a vector, for example. So you could have multiple addresses here. Or this could even be set in a later stage, like the recipient is empty when you instantiate the contract. Then you could add another execute message, for example, to add recipients and remove as you wish. And on the approve function, then you would modify it to send the tokens to the recipients in that vector. And then you would add some logic here to split evenly or whatever. Then you do as you wish here. But this is how you could work with sending the rewards to multiple addresses. I hope this answers your question. All right, so I think we can wrap it up here. And thank you everybody for joining. And yeah, have a lovely day. Thank you. Bye-bye.